Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the top 30 wide receiver rankings for week 3. Richard, you ready?
Let's do it.
The Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
The Fantasy Goodfellas. Before we get started on this week's rankings, Richard, tell me how you did last week.
Okay, in week 2, if we take out Michael Pittman, Gabriel Davis, and Julio Jones, who did not play, again, we do these rankings early in the week. We hit on 16 of our 27 remaining receivers. It was a wacky week. Look at the list of guys that didn't make the top 30. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Devonte Adams, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Marquis Brown, Brandon Cooks, DK Metcalf, and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Well, let's see if we can do better this week. All right, before we get started, let me just explain what to expect in this week's video. Richard's going to give his rankings. I'm going to use the stat machine to present the rankings to hold Richard accountable for each of his rankings. Hopefully, these stats make it easier for you to kind of set your own lineup. All right, Richard, line them up.
And number 1, we have Cooper Kupp, who will be at Arizona. He's got an incredibly high floor, produces every week. And number 2, Justin Jefferson, who will be home against Detroit. Jefferson just gave us a dud, wasn't in the top 30 in week 2, but it's Justin Jefferson. He's going to rebound, and Detroit is ripe. And number 3, the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, who will be home against Buffalo. Tough matchup, but did you see what he just did in week 2 against a good defense? So I expect more. Tyreek Hill's getting massive usage. Mike McDaniel, the dungeon master, looking like an offensive genius in Miami. And number 4, we have Stefan Diggs at Miami. Stefan Diggs, all he did was score 3 touchdowns in week 2. That Allen to Diggs connection looks amazing, and the Dolphins aren't going to stop them. The Dolphins didn't stop the Ravens. They're not going to stop the Bills. The question is, who's going to score more points? And number 5, Jamar Chase at the New York Jets. Again, I expect Cincinnati to rebound big against the Jets. Cincinnati's still looking for their first victory. I expect him to have a huge game. And number 6, Devonte Adams at Tennessee. Devonte Adams didn't make the top 30 either. Unbelievable. In week 2. I expect him to easily make it in week 3. And number 7, Debo Samuel at Denver. Debo didn't have the best week 2, but Jimmy G is back. And I think that connection, that chemistry they had last year, we're going to see it again.
Oh, hold. Sorry. All right, I have to point out real quick. Some other rankings have Debo Samuel ranked 3rd. You got him ranked 7th. Why do you think they're putting him so high, especially with the change of quarterback?
That's especially it. Debo Samuel had a fantastic season last year with Jimmy G at quarterback. So people think because Jimmy G's back, because he knows how to find Debo Samuel in space, that Debo Samuel's going to produce what he did last year. And number 8, Jalen Waddle, who will be home against Buffalo. Yes, there's room for 2 Dolphin receivers in the top 10, especially when it's the Cheetah and the Penguin. Tremendous talents. And I think they both will have good weeks against Buffalo. Will it be enough to beat the Bills? And number 9, Amon-Ra St. Brown at Minnesota. We showed him a little respect last week. We're showing him more respect this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown looks like a stud. And that Detroit offense looks like it's competent. They're going to put up points. Can their defense stop anyone? And number 10, Mike Williams, home against Jacksonville. If Keenan Allen doesn't play again in week 3, Mike Williams will do well. We saw what he did in week 2. The other hope is that Justin Herbert is healthy. And number 11, A.J. Brown at Washington. A.J. Brown just gave us a dud, but the Eagles' offense looked tremendous. So I think A.J. Brown will easily rebound. They have a good matchup this week. And number 12, T. Higgins at the New York Jets. We talked about it before. I think Burrow's going to have a big week. I think they want a statement victory. They're 0-2. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are going to have big weeks. At number 13, Gabriel Davis at Miami. Now, is Gabriel Davis going to play this week or not? But if he does, it's going to be a fun game in Miami. It's going to be a lot of offense. At number 14, Marquee Brown, home against the Rams. It's a tough matchup, but Marquis Brown can make things happen. There's a lot of upside with Marquis Brown. Didn't have a good week too, but Kyler Murray in Arizona, they're starting to look like, you know, they're picking up steam. They're starting to feel more comfortable in that offense. And I think Marquis Brown will have one big play. At number 15, Courtland Sutton, home against San Francisco. It's a tough defensive matchup, but Courtland Sutton looks like the guy. We weren't sure. Judy, Sutton. After week 2, right now, it looks like Sutton is the guy in Denver. At number 16, Christian Kirk at the LA Chargers. There's no doubt here. The receiver of choice for Trevor Lawrence is Christian Kirk, and so far he's had 2 decent weeks. At number 17, Rashad Bateman at New England. Rashad Bateman made a huge play against the Dolphins in week 2. Lamar Jackson's looking good. I say you go with Bateman. Bateman looks good. And number 18, Terry McLaurin will be home against Philadelphia. We saw what Philadelphia just did to Justin Jefferson, but now the Eagles are on the road. Can they shut another offense down? They could. I think the very scary Terry McLaurin will still manage to have a decent week. At number 19, Michael Thomas at Carolina. All Michael Thomas does is catch touchdowns. We gotta continue with this trend, even in a poor game against Tampa Bay. New Orleans and Jameis Winston found a way to get him a touchdown. At number 20, CeeDee Lamb at the New York Giants. I think this is a good matchup. Cooper Rush looked capable. I think CeeDee Lamb will be fine. At number 21, Brandon Cooks at Chicago. We said last week that Brandon Cooks, doesn't matter who they're playing, doesn't matter who his quarterback is, he's going to produce. He didn't in week 2. But I think that trend, that's just an anomaly. I think Brandon Cooks will continue to deliver. At number 22, Deontay Johnson at Cleveland. Deontay Johnson is a stud. Mitch Trubisky has shown us through 2 weeks that he is not. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. But I think if Flacco was able to throw against Cleveland, so will Trubisky, and Johnson will be fine.
Hold on. Gotta say, Deontay Johnson for the first 2 weeks did not make the top 30. So I guess you still believe in him. And what's it going to take for him not to make your rankings? Another bad week?
It depends on your rankings and your system. And PPRs, he made the top 30 this week, barely. But yes, he is a borderline top 30 guy now, which is a shame. At number 23, we have DJ Moore, who will be home against New Orleans. Again, case of a stud receiver with a subpar quarterback, and they're playing a tough defense. But DJ Moore's a stud. So I got him in my top 30. Upside. At number 24, Garrick Wilson, home against Cincinnati. Another upside guy. That Cincinnati defense is questionable. And Garrett Wilson had 14 targets from Joe Flacco. I know they were behind, but 14 targets, that's significant. He had 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, the rookie, an upside pick. At number 25, Amari Cooper, home against Pittsburgh. Amari Cooper also had 10 targets, 101 yards, and a touchdown. I think Cooper is showing us that he is Brissett's favorite target now. Even though I'm not a big Brissett fan, I think Cooper will be fine. At number 26, Juju Smith-Schuster at Indianapolis. Juju wasn't in the top 30 in week 2, but he's still the number 1 target other than Travis Kelce. If we say Travis Kelce is a tight end, Juju is the preferred receiver in that offense, and we know what Pat Mahomes can do. At number 27, Drake London at Seattle. The rookie posted a touchdown, had a good week. They're playing a defense that can be beaten. Mariota's his quarterback, but Drake London is uber talented. At number 28, Curtis Samuel will be home against Philadelphia. Again, Philadelphia just showed us that they can be good on defense. Can they repeat their performance? We'll see. They're on the road this week. Curtis Samuel is a playmaker, but can both Mclaurin and Curtis Samuel make our top 30? It's a stretch, but I had to include Curtis Samuel after his week 2, had to put him in here. At number 29, Jerry Jeudy, home against San Francisco. Again, tough defensive matchup, but Russell Wilson can sling it, and I think there will be enough for both Sutton and Jeudy. And at number 30, my upside guy, I love this guy, DK Metcalf, will be home against Atlanta. But Geno Smith, as okay as he looked in week 1, he looked horrible in week 2. But DK Metcalf, all he needs is, one short slant, and he can take it to the house. And because of that, he's my number 30 guy.
All right, let's just take a look at some other rankings and point it out. You got Tyreek Hill ranked 3rd. Some other rankings have him 9th. Any feedback on that?
Hey, I love what I saw in week 2. I think Tyreek Hill was ranked lower than his performance in both week 1 and week 2. Because, again, people didn't really believe in Tua and the offense. But he's getting the usage, and we saw Tua, he'll launch it.
Okay, Marquis Brown, you got 14. Some other rankings got him 27. And let's see.
I can't argue there. Marquee Brown had a tough week 2. Again, I just like his upside. He is the number 1 receiver there up until, Hopkins comes back. And I think Kyler Murray is starting to heat up. So that's why I put Marquee Brown at 14. And I also think they're going to have to keep up with the Rams.
And then the last one, there's some other players, Deontay Johnson, Cooper, Schuster, Samuel, and Jerry Jeudy. They don't have them ranked in the top 30. And then lastly, DK Metcalf. Some people have him ranked 15. Any feedback on that before we go?
Yeah, some of those guys, Garrick Wilson, Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, that's potato. Again, I'm picking guys that with upside at the bottom of my rankings. And as far as DK Metcalf, man, he's had 2 duds, week 1 and week 2. I love him, but I'm not going to rank him 15, until Geno Smith shows me more, or until Locke comes in and shows me more. I think DK Metcalf is going to be a lost season.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on here and sharing your top 30 wide receiver rankings for week 3. Again, anybody that watches our video, if you feel like you can do better than Richard, then bring it on. We can take your rankings and compare them and put them in the video next week. Would you have a problem with that, Richard?
I don't. And it's always fun, to hear from people. And week 1, I got killed because I did not have Amon-Ra St. Brown in our top 30. And guess what? Everybody was right. I rightly included him in week 2, and now I got him as high as number 9.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Those fantasy good fellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
Those fantasy good fellas.